all, welcome to Hands-on SAS Predictive Modeling program, Series 1, Fun with Hypothesis Testing. Now, what is hypothesis? Hypothesis is a kind of statistical inference that involves asking a question, collecting data, and then examining what the data tells us about how to proceed. The hypothesis is to be tested is called the null hypothesis and given the symbol H0, and we call it H0. We test the null hypothesis against an alternative hypothesis which is given by the symbol H1. When a hypothesis is tested, we must decide on how much of a difference between means is necessary in order to reject the null hypothesis. We first choose a level of significance or alpha level for their hypothesis test. We can perform this hypothesis test using the most popular globally recognized software, SAS. In this program, we are going to learn about central tendency, measures of variance, probability, normal distribution, sampling, one sample t-test, two sample t-test, chi-square test, and ANOVA. Let us see in our next audiovisual round how Jenny solves the problem of Jason using hypothesis test on a collected sample of fast fry restaurants. Jason needs to investigate what proportion of sales at the fast fry chain of takeaway restaurant now comes from hamburger orders. Jason knows he must first get a sample proportion. He gathers data for 1 week from a random sample of 40 fast fry restaurants, where the purchase of hamburger is $56,800, other purchases is $42,500, and the total purchase is $99,300. He knows that last year 60% of the value of all sales in the fast fry chain came from hamburgers.
How can I use this pack to set up a hypothesis about the current population proportion?
Jason calls in his colleague Jenny to help.
Jason, what exactly are you trying to test about? The population proportion, that it has changed or increased or decreased?
Well, changed, I guess. The proportion of sales dollars spent on hamburgers could have gone up due to advertising, or down due to people making healthier eating choices.
So you should make a two-tailed test. Set it up like this. The null hypothesis is H0 pi equals to 0.6 and the alternative hypothesis is H1 pi not equal to 0.6.
Oh.
We put pi, the population proportion from last year, in the null hypothesis and see if we can reject it.
We'll reject the null hypothesis if the sample proportion seems either too large or too small to be from a population where hamburgers account for 60% of the total sale value.
Okay, but what about if there was no advertising? Would we make a one-tail test if we thought the proportion had decreased due to healthier eating choices? Jenny, if I need to do a lower tail test, should my null hypothesis be H0 pi less than G60?
No, Jason. You should put what you are trying to prove in the alternative hypothesis and the original value in the null, like this. H0 pi equals to 60, H1 pi less than 60.
Right, Jenny. I will start doing the hypothesis test as soon as finish my lunch. Can't think on empty stomach. Oh, my stomach is full right now. So the sample proportion is P is equal to 56,800 by 99,300 is equal to 0.57.
Yes, 57% of the sales in dollars for this sample came from hamburger orders. Before you go, make sure you recognize that notation can differ. Your course may use P hat equals to sample proportion, P equals to population proportion. always use the population symbol in your hypothesis.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. Thank you.
Hope you understand the concept of hypothesis testing. Now let's move on to the course.